fall has begun. Our farmers markets are definitely putting out the pumpkins now, and they're beautiful. So we are visiting them and picking out a few of our favorites. We'll probably do this a couple more times before the season is over. Hey friends, welcome to Farmhouse Harvest. Today I'm just going to take you along with me as I make a very delicious casserole that is usually served as stuffed bell peppers. However, a lot of kids don't like to eat the actual stuffed bell pepper, so instead of wasting it, I'm going to dice them up nice and small, make it look like confetti inside their rice, and we are making a casserole, a stuffed bell pepper casserole. Hope you enjoy. So we use a lot of onions around here too. I probably use at least 2 onions a day, and I am going to make a double casserole. So I'm going to make 2 pans that are about 9 by 5 each. They're my Pyrex pans. I've had them forever. And so I am using 2 large onions. I'm going to use 3 different colors of bell peppers. I'm not going to use the entire bell peppers, but our farmers market has the most beautiful bell peppers. Purdums, if you are in the area, grows the biggest and best bell peppers. So I've got orange, red, and yellow, and I am just going to chop these all up with some zucchini, and I am going to saute these in my pan. Now, while I am chopping these up, I am also cooking up 2 pounds of meat. I have a pound of sausage and a pound of ground beef, and I am cooking those in the cast iron skillet, and I will get these vegetables added to it. I am dicing everything up really small because the smaller it is, the less the kids see of it, and it just looks pretty with all the different colors sprinkled throughout their rice, and they'll end up enjoying it. The onions I dice really small because I have a few little kids that think that onions are spicy whether they are or not. And of course, when we saute onions, they become sweet, not spicy. But I chop them up really small, and then they mix in with the rice, and you can't even see them in there. So my kids will love it and they'll enjoy it, but they won't know the onions are in there. They will see the little chunks of bell peppers, but they'll be nice and small. I really enjoy cooking in cast iron skillets for a couple different reasons. One is that they actually add a little bit of iron to your food, and my family and I have all kind of erred on the side of being a little anemic when we've been tested for it, which is during pregnancies or during checkups on the little kids. So I really love using cast iron skillets for that reason, that it's adding something healthy to our bodies that we actually need. But I also love it because it doesn't have any coating on there with chemicals that's going to make us sick, or that will come off with a metal spatula. So I really like using my cast iron skillet because I can use a metal spatula with it, and it also fries things really well. So I've got my hamburger and my sausage all mixed up, and I'm just seasoning it. I'm using salt and pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and getting that all mixed in. I'm also going to add some fresh thyme to this recipe, but I will add that in later when I've got everything combined in a large mixing bowl. Once your hamburger and sausage is nice and browned, you just add in the onions, the peppers, and get those softening up while you chop up your zucchini. And I am just using zucchini today because our farmer's market had it, and I like to have something green in there. But I'm just lucky that the farmer's market had it. My zucchinis are not producing zucchini anymore. It's the end, getting towards the end of September now, and so I'm just enjoying the summer harvest as long as we can before it gets too cold and we can't have any fresh from the farmer's market or the garden. And just like with the onion and the bell pepper, I am going to dice this up super small so that my kids have nothing to complain about, but they get plenty of veggies in with each bite of their casserole. A sweet subscriber sent me these knives about a year ago. They noticed that my knives were dull and they offered to send these to me. They're just wonderful and they're super sharp, and I'm actually surprised because usually when I buy knives, I usually just buy them from a big box store. And usually after 1 year, they're dull, and I am not good at sharpening knives. I do have a hand sharpener and an electric sharpener, but I am just not good at it. And so I end up usually throwing them away or getting more, or just using dull knives for a really long time. So these knives have been great. I'll put the name of these knives in the description below if you're interested in them. But isn't this casserole beautiful? I haven't added the rice yet, but all the different colors with the green from the zucchini, the yellow, orange, and red from the bell peppers, and the meat. It's just a really beautiful, really healthy meal, actually. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to use my really big bowl. I am going to add all this meat and vegetables into it, and then I'm going to add to that cooked rice. I did cook this in a rice cooker. You can cook it on the side, but it does need to be cooked before you add it to the casserole. And this casserole actually is going to be completely cooked once I mix everything together. You don't have to put it in the oven and bake it longer. The flavors will meld together more when you do, but it can be served like this where everything's hot and added in. I am using a jar of spaghetti sauce. I really like the Classico spaghetti sauce, and I can get it so cheap that it's actually more economical than buying the tomatoes and canning them on my own. Plus, I get the mason jar from the Classico spaghetti sauce. They have these really nice Atlas mason jars that I save and I use for my own canning. Look how beautiful this is. It's just so colorful, and I just love how pretty it is. I am using fresh thyme from the garden. I have so much thyme out there, and my daughter cut me this beautiful bunch to dry, and they are all nice and dry. So I am going to gather up a couple tablespoons of dried thyme leaves and add them to this casserole. Thyme is just a really delicious flavor, especially to meat, for meat dishes, and it will go really good with the sausage and the hamburger in this dish and give it an Italian flavor. So just add that in, give everything a quick stir, and then I am going to get these into my 2 9x5 about Pyrex casserole dishes. But before I put it in there, I am going to butter them just in case, because I'm going to bake these. I am going to top them with Parmesan cheese and then the melting cheese. It's a Mexican brand of melting cheese. It's really almost exactly like Monterey Jack cheese, but I think it has a higher fat content in it, and it's super creamy and melts really well. So I'm going to top these with 2 different kinds of cheese, and then we will cook one for dinner tonight, and I will put one in the freezer, and we will enjoy it in a week or 2 after my family has forgotten that they ate it today. One thing about cooking from scratch and homemaking is there is always a mess to clean up, whether you do it or your kids do it. It's just always something that has to be done, and I actually enjoy doing it and enjoy how it makes my home feel beautiful and peaceful. I'm just washing my Atlas mason jar. I will take the label off later. I need to let it soak in some hot water before I take it off, but I am washing my cast iron skillet. This is kind of a controversial subject, but I don't use soap on my cast iron skillet. It is seasoned really well, and I do not want to take any of that seasoning off, so I just scrub it really good with really hot water, and then I put it on the stove and make sure you dry it really well so that it doesn't get rusty at all. And then after it's on the stove, my mother used to turn the stove on and then re-season it every time she used it with hot oil, but I just put hot oil in mine and coat it all around, and then it's ready to go and waiting for me the next time I use it. My mom used to make breakfast every morning in her cast iron skillet. She'd fry pancakes that she used so much butter, and it was delicious that the pancake batter would actually fry around the edges and be nice and crispy. Another reason why I love cast iron skillets. I picked these very heavy porcelain nesting bowls up on Facebook Marketplace. I just love them. I don't know if they're antique or vintage, but I think they are because I've never seen anything like them in modern day for sale. But there's 3 of them. They fit inside of each other. They're super heavy, but they're great for baking or baking anything because it rises really well. I think the thick porcelain really helps, and great for mixing up any big batches that you're cooking. My kitchen needs a good mom clean every time I cook, and especially every time any of my kids cook. I really need to move things out of the way. I have to take the covers of my stove top, each section that has a place for a pot to sit and cook, those have to come out and get wiped out and cleaned. And they're older, so you really have to take care of them so that they don't rust. And then everything just has to get wiped down really well. We do make a big mess, and the white stove really shows a lot on the white, which I don't mind. I like to keep it clean because it's beautiful, and I like to make it look beautiful. I am just going to clean up the front porch real quick, give it a little fall love with some pumpkins that we picked out earlier at the farmer's market. I just love all the different types of pumpkins. They're just so beautiful to me, and I love fall. I will actually cook a lot of these pumpkins. The really big one I won't cook because I'm going to let my kids use that for a jack-o'-lantern. It's a nice big one. But the other pumpkins, they are more like a princess pumpkin shape. They tend to have a really thick, really orange flesh, and they're great for making pumpkin puree and baking with. So I will do that after it gets too cold for the pumpkins to be outside, and it usually starts freezing here about the end of October when Halloween comes. But for now, we're going to enjoy how beautiful they are on the porch with some chrysanthemum flowers. Happy fall, everyone. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below for me, and we'll see you next time.